Something I see brought up a lot in the anime community is that when an anime has a template main character, someone who isn't that deep or complex of a character, no real development, feels like a placeholder for us the viewer to place ourselves in, then it's always a bad thing. Where I disagree with that statement. A template main character I think serves a similar purpose as they do in video games, where you have a character creation and the character you play as either has no voice acting or little to no personality, and it's a story built around the character and your actions that determines who your character is and how that story will unfold. Now obviously in the case of anime, since you don't control the direction the story takes, it does have to do things a little differently, but I do think the purpose of them existing is the same if only executed differently. I think there is a right and wrong way to use them, but let's focus on the right first. And before you get triggered, hear me out before you call me an idiot for bringing up pro points for a couple of series that are widely hated. To begin, Kirito in Sword Art Online is as bland of a character as you can get. He is lifeless, personalityless, overpowered, gets the job done without even having to really try, and every girl wants to suck his dick. But his template main character status actually benefits the series at times, and at others it doesn't. What I personally enjoy about Sword Art Online is the worlds themselves are interesting and exciting, exploring the vast lands and secrets they hold. Over the anime, I felt entertained and engaged by them. Combat was interesting and fun, with the visuals making it feel like a game. So having a character that you would have in a video game, kicking ass and taking names, not focusing on developing him, granted they do try at time and fail, but when it's just focusing on the adventure side, I think the template main character formula actually benefited the series. But where it doesn't is when it pulls back into being a harem, because those are the series that fail with this formula. Some people may want to feel like they are being swarmed by females in anime like in Sword Art Online, but I find it weird as it's not real. But if that's what you enjoy, this won't be a negative for you. But when something like Sword Art Online is an action and adventure fantasy show, the template formula works damn well as it lets you embrace the world while not pulling your focus away from the other aspects. That's not to say it's bad when a series has complex characters, I love them in fact. But it is nice to have a series that goes the route that some RPG video games do, because I think both complex and template characters can work the same way as they do in video games. I think when series aim to be something that has action, adventure, or fantasy elements, template main characters can work very well. Obviously, if the story and characters around said character are boring, it just won't work for you. But when series like SAO aren't trying to be more than they can achieve and focusing on the adventure side, I find it easy to enjoy them. Like in games like Dragon Age Origins, there is no personality or humanity behind your character. Voiceless, but the choices you make progress the story, how you see fit, and the characters treat you, how you play the game. Anime being something the viewer doesn't control has to structure it a little differently, making the actions of the character relatable to the viewer, or at the very least entertaining with what's happening on screen. Though series like SAO fail in more ways than one, it doesn't take away the fact that for many, it does succeed in a few ways even with the missteps it takes every season, and there are plenty of them, don't get me wrong. I think adventure series can benefit with this character archetype, but not all should use them. Fleshed out and detailed characters are great, but having the lifeless characters can serve a purpose when exploring an interesting world with interesting things happening. Even Akame ga Kill, it has its fair share of problems and its main character isn't much better than Kirito. But I found the world of Akame ga Kill and this order of assassins to be rather interesting and entertaining. So having a pretty basic and template-like character going around this world, not making him the focus at all times, but the world and the corruption of this government in said world itself, benefited the series at least for myself. Both of these series are not without its many flaws, but both I see targeted for having a template character, when in fact I do think they work in its favor, at least at some times. When it doesn't is when the authors want to make them more than it is, or they add that harem element. My biggest issue with this style is like the previously mentioned harem route, and harem series are in my opinion the biggest user and abuser of this archetype, and this is where I feel like they fail the most. For some who want to pretend they are the main character having a few girls head over heels ready to please the character in whatever way they want, like the main character from Infinite Stratus, then obviously they will love it. But the reason I think the template main characters can work is it helps explore the worlds without taking your focus away by focusing on the main character. But in the case of a harem series, very few have an interesting or exciting world and the focus is on the fan service, and rarely is any character interesting or unique. Because unlike in a video game where you explore what you want and choose to do what you please, anime is limited to what the author makes these lifeless characters say and do. And to me, when they can work is in heavy action and adventure series with interesting and exciting worlds. But when they pull back and try to add a romance element, it just doesn't work, and why series like SAO fail to so many. This isn't a detailed or fleshed out character. Nothing about that gives me any reason to care who ends up with who, or how many females want to bang Kirito. If more series focus on staying at what they were, and not trying to add fan service to it, then a lot of these heavily criticized shows wouldn't have as much of a negative response as they currently do. For those who don't get bothered to the point of the enjoyable content being not interesting, this isn't a huge issue. But just having a character who seems lifeless or personalityless doesn't make it a bad series. The other issues I previously mentioned can, however, make it one. They can be used to explore the world or just have fun and exciting action sequences in a high fantasy setting without trying to tell a deep or complex story. Because everyone has such varying tastes and opinions, I think this character type can serve a purpose, to be something that a lot can find enjoyment in if they are looking for a show that is aimed to be fun and nothing more. That they just want to explore a world with epic fantasy elements. The issue lies with things like SAO that try to be more than it is, and thus resulting in a negative opinion on something that could be great more times than it isn't. If more series would just try to accept they aren't this grand epic masterpiece, that they are just an okay fun action or adventure show, not trying to add every trope out there, I think this character archetype could work the same way that in video games they do. And who knows, maybe one day an author will make an epic masterpiece with this character type, but I still stand by what I said. Even the series that do have many issues, just because they might have a boring or uninteresting main character, doesn't mean that's always a flaw, and sometimes can benefit the series when it's used to its advantage. I'd love to hear everyone's thought on this topic. Do you agree with me that series can work with a template main character when it's used to explore exciting worlds or high-octane adventure series? Or do you completely despise that style of writing and it will only ever work in video games for yourself? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below, and before you leave, smack that like button to show your support, and be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. And if you want to go the extra mile, consider checking out my Patreon for behind-the-scenes content, as well as early access on select videos. So until next time everyone, please take care and have a good one.